If you've ever found yourself staring at a blank screen and wondering what on earth to write on your sales page or how to talk about your offer without feeling pushy or fake, today's episode is for you. Join me as I chat with launch strategist and sales page pro Macaira Smith all about how to create sales pages that convert without compromising your voice or your values, including how to make your sales page sound like you, not a robot. The simple structure that helps people say yes faster, what to include and what to skip if you want your copy to convert, and so much more. If you've got an offer, a program, or a course that you are excited to share, but the idea of writing a sales page fills you with dread and it is holding you back from launching, Macaira's simple hot lid approach will help you to not only confidently share your offer, but get it into the hands of those who need it most, all whilst feeling good about it in the process. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur, the podcast for mums with an online business who are ready to take back their time, home, business, and self so they can restore the balance and thrive, both at home and at work, without feeling like they have to choose between the two. I'm your host, Sarah Dew, life and biz coach for mumpreneurs. I'm also a mum, stepmom, wife, introvert, breast cancer survivor, and your mentor for making a change for the better. I've learned how to go from surviving to thriving and unapologetically create a business I love and the life I want for me and my family without worrying about what other people think. And now I'm here to help you do the same. Because being an unapologetic mompreneur doesn't mean that we're selfish or that we don't care about others. It simply means that we are not afraid to show up as our true, authentic selves, to step into our purpose, do what we know is right for ourselves and the ones we love, and take the steps we need to take to make our dream life and business a reality. Join me each week where I'll be sharing all of my best tips and strategies, plus the occasional dose of tough but gentle love to help you feel empowered, motivated, and confident to take action so that you can become the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. So, are you ready to unapologetically create a business and life you love? Let's do this. Okay, hey Macaira, welcome to the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, amazing. I'm really glad that you are here. And I know that what you're going to be sharing today is something that is really going to help everybody that's listening. And I'm looking forward to it too, because we're going to be talking all about sales page copy. And it's something that I always struggle with as well. So, yeah, before we dive in, just in case anybody hasn't met you before, do you want to just share a little bit about you, what you do, your family, and your journey that's got you to where you are right now?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Macaira. I'm a launch copywriter, launch strategist, focusing primarily on sales pages. I'm located in the States, New York State specifically, and I am a proud mom of oh goodness, how do you say, an independent 2-year-old. You know, it is a fun stage of life we're in. It's simultaneously beautiful and frustrating and wonderful, all of those emotions. But she's the light of my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Um, and I've been copywriting for about 3 years now. I was in a place at my previous career where I was just, you know, unsatisfied, frustrated, all those things. And I was looking around, I was like, well, what can I do? I don't really have any like special skills and all this. And I just kind of dawned on me. I realized I've been writing since um, birth, essentially. Like started in preschool and went all the way through to get my master's. And so writing and specializing in those types of writing and all that stuff. And I was like, well, I'll give this a whirl. And I fell in love with copywriting. I fell in love with it, and I'm so glad I took that leap. And then I found a program. Shout out to my mentor, Danny Page. She has this program specifically focusing on sales pages, and she has taught me so much, so much. And that's really where I am. What's led me to here today. And yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And I can totally resonate with the whole independent 2-year-old. My boy is 14
Mhm.
now, but yeah, even back then, he was just, oh my goodness, he was so on fire and totally got
Yeah.
me out of my introverted shell. He was off doing all the things, didn't care who he ran up to in the playground. He still, and
Hmm.
we used to pretend that he was a mix of Tasmanian Devil and Curious George, and he's still the same. No change
Yeah.
there. So I love that your daughter is the same. That is just brilliant. And that
Yeah.
you're able as well to connect and find somebody that, was meant to be able to mentor you in everything that you know as well, and that you're
Hmm.
going to be sharing today, which is just awesome. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to dive into all of this. So with all
Yeah.
that, let's go for it. So tell me all about sales pages. We know that we need
Mhm.
them. We know that if we want to sell, whether it's a product, a service, a coach, a coaching course, whatever it might be, or
Mhm.
program, know that we need them, but how on earth do we get started? Because they can be super daunting of knowing what to put in
Yeah.
them and how to put them together so that they convert and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, take us through it. What are the key elements and how do you get started in creating
Yeah.
a sales page?
Yeah. So let me first start by saying, even as a copywriter, sales pages, I still like they're intimidating to me too, because there is a lot of pressure on them to get them right. Like if they're done correctly, they are the difference between, like a launch that has five people converting, or it's supposed to like 100 or so. It can be a really big game changer. But you're right, it's absolutely vital because when people, especially nowadays, people are not just when they're looking for something, they're doing their research. They're not just coming, looking at something that they like and saying, okay, yeah, that sounds good. They are vetting people out. Like they want to know that where their money is going to essentially they're going to see a return on interest. I don't know about you. I've definitely purchased products or even courses, and I've been promised one thing, and then there's a a mistranslation with the messaging, and I didn't end up getting what I wanted. So people are aware of that, and people, that's the energy people have coming into these sales pages. So it's super daunting, but also super rewarding. It really can be the difference between getting, that really successful, well, how you define success, but essentially a successful launch. So I'd say a really good place to start is, and this might sound kind of trivial, but if you're looking to write your own sales page, what I would suggest is literally like block out a certain chunk of time, sit down at your laptop, open a blank document. Don't be afraid. It's okay because you're not writing your sales page yet, but sit down, open a blank Google Doc, and just write about your program or your product. Write about all of the things that, or even like your journey that led you there. Write about everything that you, as the creator, the host, the salesperson, write everything that you know about this, because that's your base. You're not, when you write a sales page, you're not trying to come up with, and I think this is where a lot of people trip up. You're not trying to write like, for example, I'm selling like a prenatal nutrition course. You're not trying to write about, this is a really cool course. Well, you're, like those cutesy little sayings, you're trying to write to your target audience. So in that case, your target audience, prenatal, your moms who are expecting, you want to write about sitting down and like having that knowledge of how your program helps expecting mothers is going to help you get in the mindset of like, if I'm a pregnant mother, this is what I would like to hear. If I'm in their shoes, I want a course that has ABC. And having that at the forefront can help you go into the next step, which is weeding out or essentially highlighting what's important, what is the selling point, what's the enticement of what I have here, because that is really a huge part. And I'm trying to balance this here because this is where it gets a little tricky, because a lot of people talk about writing to specific pain points, which is crucial. Don't get me wrong. Like you need to touch on the pain of where they are, because you want to highlight the transformation that it has. So I know this is a bit long-winded, but you start with what your program does, how it helps, and then you highlight um, the great parts, like the essentially what is enticing. And then the next part would be you focus on how that helps transform them. And those, again, they might seem trivial, they might seem like really basic, but those really are the foundation points to your sales page copy.
Amazing. That's so helpful for getting started. And it's, do you know what's really reassuring is that as a copywriter, you said that you find them daunting as well. So
Yeah, yeah,
that really like gives me a bit
definitely.
of relief. So that's actually quite good to know that even though this is what you do, you still find them daunting. So yeah, that I think
Yeah.
that's a dose of encouragement for everybody listening. And I think
Mhm,
that I think you're so right now with like, especially like post COVID and everything else, and people are
mhm.
wanting more connection and actually really understanding and what it is and like vetting people and looking and seeing
Yeah,
and it about it being the person as well as the transformation and what it all involves. So I
yeah,
think it's really important, like you said, about having your story and sharing your story of where you got
mhm,
to it and why you are the person for them. I think that's so important of like helping them to connect and then
yeah,
just thinking sitting in their shoes of like the pregnancy example you gave of like, you know, if I'm going to
mhm,
be having my baby, what was it that I would have liked to have known?
yeah,
And I think that's really important too, because quite often what we're doing is we're usually, you know, our ideal clients 2 or 3 years down the line from, you know, back from where we were, or we've been through something that we are now sharing and helping them with. So I think
yeah.
that's a really important way of looking at it. That is awesome. So you mentioned about making sure that it speaks to our target audience. Have you got any tips or
Mhm.
strategies on that of what we can do to make sure that we are so that it's super clear who it's for?
Yeah, so if you're not sure like who your target audience is, a really basic example of how you can do that is figure that out is think of literally just think of who you want to sell to. Like who did you have in mind when you created this course, this service, this product? And this is might feel a bit uncomfortable, but like really write out all of those details. Like if you again this prenatal nutrition course. If you are selling to first time moms, you want to write literally like on your document, write that out moms, first time pregnancy. Or maybe this is moms who have gotten pregnant, quote unquote, later in life, later than the traditional age, that sort of thing. Be as super specific as possible. Even like, write about what you think their day to day life is, how they manage their household, like every single thing that you can think of to give you as much specifics as possible. It's gonna seem counterintuitive, but at the same time, like the more you can understand them, the more you can write to that, to where they are and to the transformation that your program provides. If you're in a place where you've also had previous clients, you can do customer research to get a clearer picture or find like that common denominator of the people that you've worked with. If you're not really sure what your target, review them and ask them what was it about your, and this will help you with the copy too. What was it about your course that got them to sign up? What was it about your marketing, your messaging? And then, what you can even ask, what solution did you find in working with me? Because again, the more specific you can dive in, the more it's going to help you when you're sitting trying to write that um, copy, because you're kind of like mapping it out in your head, where your audience is starting and where they're ending, and then it will take some practice, I should say. It will take some practice, but you'll be able to start seeing how, okay, they were really confused, had all of these symptoms, and just wanted someone to help them figure out what feels good for their body. To, oh, their pregnancy symptoms were, not alleviated, but almost gone, and they were able to get this energy and this and that. And you'll be able to start seeing like, oh, this specific service of mine helps them get from point A to point B, and really mapping that out, which will put you in the best vantage point to write your sales page. Yeah,
Fantastic. And I guess talking with them as well is that one, it gives you some great testimonials to use that you can then share on there. But you also
that's very
just, you're
true. Yeah,
taking their actual words as well and then putting that into your own
mhm,
copy, because then that's kind of like allows them to then when they're reading it thinking she's in my mind, she knows what she's talking about. This is, oh my
yeah,
goodness, she's reading my mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of doing that before. I've got testimonials from my clients and I've looked at what they've shared and then put that into my
Mhm.
copy, but I've never actually thought of reaching back out afterwards and going, hey, actually, what element of this really helped you, or what was the biggest transformation for you?
Yeah.
And actually taking that, and then like you say,
Mhm.
seeing the common denominators, because that's super smart. And then I guess once you've got
Yeah.
that, you can use that in all of your sale pages, but it's also great copy for your Instagram and your social posts, your emails, and everything else as well.
Very
So
true.
that's
Yeah.
really awesome. What if your topic is a little bit of a sensitive topic, or the course that you're creating or the
Mhm.
program that you've got covers something that is a little bit sensitive or a little bit, something that's not so easy for some people to share about? How do you go about putting together a sales
Yeah.
page for that? 'Cause I'm just thinking about a couple of my clients, and I know that that's probably something that, sort of different areas in healthcare and all those sort of different, like different subjects. How
Yeah.
do you go about writing copy without being able to convey that sympathetically and without being insensitive? What are your tips for that?
Mhm. Yeah. So I do, it's something I talk about a lot on my Instagram page because of the clientele that I work with. And, let's use the example of someone who is doing IVF coaching or, even just fertility coaching. That is a very, very sensitive topic. And one that unfortunately a lot of people walk through. So it's really it's a needed service, but it's tricky to figure out how to market because you don't want to say the wrong thing, especially because like we've established, these sales pages help establish that trust. This is like copywriting 101. You want your clients to know, like, and trust you, and the sales page is a great venue for that to be established. But with something like fertility coaching or even any other sort of sensitive topic, again, this might sound counterintuitive. My rule of practice is to not shy away from the emotion. Because here's the thing, you want people in those moments, they want someone who knows what they're going through. For example, the fertility coaching, they're constantly being inundated by people who are saying, I mean, generally speaking, I should say, but they're constantly being inundated by people who are saying, anything from like, oh, just pray harder, just relax, just try this and that, and you'll get what you want. And as someone who is a fertility coach, they'll be able to say, like, it's more than that. That's not what I'm here to say. What I'm here to say is like, I see your pain, I see where you are, and I want to help you. I want to walk along beside you. I don't want you to see that I'm someone who just thinks it's, you can just put a band-aid on it and everything will be okay. So by not shying away from the emotion, you're showing them that you get their pain. But here's where it gets tricky because it's very easy, it's a very thin line from validating and exploiting their emotions. So you don't want your whole page to be like, basically like, yeah, your life sucks, I can help you. You want to establish in the beginning of your, like at the top of your page, I get your pain and I know where you are. I've maybe even been there before, like I can help you. But then the rest of your page should really focus on that transformation, that hope. And if you're not like if you're balancing it with like, you know, pain, but also hope, that transformation, and really, I don't want to give it like a percentage, but it's almost like 25% pain, 75% transformation. Like get them in the mindset of like, I can help you get to the other side. You know, as whatever that other side looks for you, because a lot of these have variables that, I'm not suggesting that you say that you can fix someone's problems if you can't, but if your program has a certain success rate, lean into that. Lean into this is how even client testimonials in this case would be a good way of, navigating that validation. If your previous clients are comfortable sharing or sharing without their name written on their testimony, you have them talk about how like that transformation. And it's going to be different for every topic because every topic has every sensitive topic, I should say, has different pain points, different uh, like essentially triggers. And it's you want to be keenly aware of that going in. And I guess that's another place where market research could go really well with that because, if you're comfortable, if your clients are comfortable telling you, they might be able to highlight, like, I was looking at this course, but then they said this and it just really turned me off. And I liked you because you understood, etc. And so you don't want to shy away from the emotion because that's really where you'll speak to your client where they are. But at the same time, you really don't want your whole page to be focused on that because you're not you're not preying on their emotions. You're showing them, I get it, but I have something for you. I have something that will help you. And I really believe in that. Yeah.
Amazing. It's kind of like finding that balance and showing that you empathize and that you understand. And you're right.
Mhm.
But first up with me, if I was thinking about a sensitive topic, I would be worrying about upsetting them or saying the wrong thing
Mhm.
and everything. But actually showing that and sharing that emotion that, that you've either walked the path or you can help them through it. You can
Mhm.
hold their hand and take them through. It doesn't have to be this way. And then leading into that transformation and actually painting that picture. I think
Mhm.
that's really, really powerful. And it almost kind of gives you then an idea and a way of how to lay out that sales page as well, isn't it? Because that's
Yeah.
one of the struggles as well of like not just the key elements are of what to include, but then actually
Mhm.
knowing what to put where so that it actually keeps the flow, it explains what it's all about, what they can gain, and getting it to convert. So have you
Mhm.
let's talk about that for a minute because I'm curious and I always look at my sales pages when I've done them and I'm like, what else can I do to actually bump the conversions and actually get people to go, yes, this is me. So
Mhm.
is there, I suppose it depends on the program, whatever it is that you're
Mhm.
offering, but is there like an ideal really like this is how you should lay out your sales page and what can we add to it to help it convert as best as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. Whenever I'm asked this question, my first answer is always if you don't have a frequently asked questions section on your page, add one like yesterday because uh, like it's human nature basically that we are, whenever you get to a website, you're looking at the FAQ section because you're assuming that that will be in depth to like your because in some cases, people are coming to your page, they already know you and they know that you're promoting this. If you've, promoted it, you're in that launch funnel. And so they're just going to go right to the FAQ page to figure out and start that weeding out process. Another section that I think is really, really important, it's not really a section, but, and there is a big debate on this. I'm of the mindset of you should have your prices listed on your sales page. People will say no, people will say that shows, there's a lot of argument about it. I think, and it's probably just because of who I am. I'm someone who's very vulnerable, very upfront, very honest in what I do. And that's because, and I should have mentioned this previously, but your sales page is attracting the right people, but it's also showing the wrong people for your service or your course that this isn't for them. So if someone can't afford your service, they want to know that right away. You don't want to give them any false hope. So again, that's not really a section, but I think that's a really crucial part, just so that they have as much information as possible. And even if you have like a payment plan, include that in there as well. But as far as like mapping it out, you want to really like focus on taking them on that journey. So start by painting the picture. Start with a good headline that calls them, speaks to where they are, who they are, and then paint that picture. Start saying like, talk about their mornings, talk about their days, talk about that endless cycle of whatever that they're stuck in, and then that will naturally segue into that hope that but it doesn't always have to be that way, that sort of idea, like you're waking up, like a sleeping course, talking about you're waking up with your baby every 5 minutes and you're frustrated you can't get sleep, but there's a better way, that sort of thing. And then that will lead into you talking about your course or talking about um, how you've helped people with this method, and then you introduce your course. And then so again, I don't really want to give percentages to it, but it's like the top part of your page is really crucial, but because it's the essentially the old way, like where you are, not where you want to take them, the highlight should be more so on where you want to take them. So really dive in to what your course offers, the specifics of what they get with your course. Like if your course or service, if when they buy it, they get like 6 months of like one-to-one weekly calls with you, talk about that. Like talk about how they'll get the chance to know you and work with you, because really people, like we've said, are just craving that connection. And if they know that this course will come with that component of I get to meet with this person who I think is really great and they can talk to me specifically, highlight that. Like that will be such a huge selling point. But it also will show them that you're not afraid to, you're not just I hate to say it, you're on some AI bot who's just, doing whatever. You are a real person who's going to meet them, essentially meet them in the trenches. And then really talk about what makes your course special, what makes your course unique. I don't want to suggest that you say these courses are bad, mine's the best, but talk about like really getting into what they're going to get for their money. I'd also say that a really important part of making, what sets apart a good sales page and a great sales page is someone who puts their personality all throughout their sales page. So, I'm not someone who thinks, who's not going to promote being clever in your copy, because it's not that I'm against it, but I think that that part trips people up. But after you've written, like the outline, or like the foundation of your copy, if you go over and you can see, like, I know it's a very simple example, but like if you see there's a spot for a quote from a favorite movie or TV. Like I love The Office. So if there's a spot on my sales page where I can put in like a Michael Scott quote, like or make a Michael Scott reference, I can do that. I can put that in there and let my personality shine through. Or if like, talking about in the section of my sales page where I introduce myself, I can talk about how part of just mention make a joke about how like part of my job right now is getting goldfish every 2 seconds, or and whatever my toddler is focused on that week, because it changes so often. Just finding, you don't want your page to be all like inside jokes or little quips like that, but there is a space for it, and it should be on your page, because again, those little things are gonna like warm people's hearts. They're gonna be like, okay, they're a real person, and they're someone who, if someone reads my page and they don't like The Office, then they know they probably shouldn't work with me, because they can determine that if that's really crucial to them. But if someone is reading my page and they do like The Office, then they're like, oh yeah, I vibe with this girl, and this is really cool. So yeah, it's because that's another fine line, but it is really important to let your personality shine through. Because that's another way that people are gonna establish that connection with you, and um, really, it it seems like such a basic fact, but showing who you are and just like really pulling open that curtain so people can see you, often is the difference between a good and a great sales page. Yeah.
Awesome. I think it is so important that we share who we are on there, because people buy, like you said, there's no like and trust. We all know that. And also that
Hmm.
they buy because they want to connect with somebody and see the
Hmm.
person behind it and know that we're a real person, that we're not some AI
Yeah.
bot, that we're actually, true. And if we can weave stuff in that makes us so that they can really get to know
Hmm.
us, I think that's great. I spent far too long in the early days of my business trying to dumb myself down, not share things about
Yeah.
me, because it was like, one was who's going to want to know about that, and two,
Yeah.
have I got anything to share? Is this, and just talking about myself. But actually, once you start weaving you into it and showing your personality, that's how people jive with you
Yeah.
and are gonna connect. So I love that, and I love that you brought up the fact about showing your prices on there. Nothing annoys me
Hmm.
more than going onto a sales page and there being no prices, because either it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, great, how much is this? And that's an instant turn off for me, because I just like to know right away what the investment
Yeah.
is. And then also, it's, I want to decide for myself whether I can afford it or not, or whether I'm prepared to
Yeah.
invest in it as well.
Yeah.
And having to then either apply or take another, it's just that next, you've got to take another step, haven't you,
Yeah.
before you get to making that
Yeah.
decision. So I'm really glad and so pleased you mentioned that, and that you're in Team Camper, put your prices on the page. I love that. So
Yeah.
yeah, really
Yeah.
pleased that you mentioned that. That's great. There's so many nuggets there that are really going to help people put their
Mm.
sales pages together. And once you've done that, one final question I've got for you is, how do we then like prep our audiences and get them ready for an up and coming launch? Once we've got the sale
Mhm.
page done, what sort of topics do you have for then like taking that next step and then actually going out and sharing it with the world and
Yeah.
promoting it and doing what we can to then actually get the sales from it? What tips do you have for that?
Yeah. You cannot underestimate the power behind your email list. You know, getting your email list prepped, and it's cliche, but it's actually prepped and ready for the launch. And so writing emails that are focused on preparing your audience for something's coming, start in, planting those little seeds saying like, oh, something's coming down the pipeline. What are you interested, like, if you're interested in XYZ, you don't even have to tell them the topic. You don't even have to tell them um, the name or anything, but, just give that little, if you're interested in something, related to what your service is, stay tuned. Even giving like an opt out for people on your list who aren't ready, but people who want to stay up to date. But you don't even have to phrase it that way. You could say, like, if you want to stay stay on top of hearing about this, click here. And so, all those segmentations that you can do with your email list. It's really great. It's fascinating what we can do with that. But then one of the great things about having a sales page done is like you can use parts of your sales page in like your sales page copy in your launch emails. So talking about like an FAQ section, obviously not just taking all of it and copying and pasting, but when you're writing your launch emails, if you want to have one that's solely focused on, overcoming doubts, overcoming objections, take what you've written for some of your FAQs and weave that into your launch emails. Uh, work smarter, not harder, right? It's not that you have to sit down, you have to write a whole sales page, and now it's like, oh, I have to write all these launch emails. I have a sales page. How can I use this copy and how can I use that to help me write these launch emails? And I would also say that if you're someone who uses socials to promote your service or for lead generation, I would say the same thing applies. Obviously, it's different because they're different mediums. You don't write the same, you don't write an Instagram post the same way you write an email, but your sales page really is like that foundation. Look at your sales page. You kind of alluded to it earlier with the testimonials. Look at your sales page, look at your testimonials. Think about what this launch, how that fits into this launch, and use what you already have to start promoting those services. Start writing about again, not like tease. I don't want to use the word teasing, but like getting their intrigue up and getting excitement, stirring up excitement. There's lots of different venues that you can use to like kick off your new launch. You could do webinars, you could do a master class, you could do Instagram live. I mean, you could do so many things. It really is. The cool thing about launches is that it can be tailored to what your preferences are and what your style is. But one of the biggest pieces of advice I have is like your sales page can really help launch you, and it will also help your. I didn't mean that, pun intended, but it can really help keep your messaging the same too. Because I see a lot of that. A lot of the sales page says one thing and the launch says something else because they're looking at it as two different entities when really they play off of each other. And so having that foundational piece of your sales page can really make sure that your message is all the same, which will also help with conversions because the second a messaging is off, a client's going to be like, and likely to know. It's again, I speak generally, but having that message is messaging the same from here, here, and here will really just help that consistency and really help reinforce to the right buyers. Yes, this is what I want. This is what I want to invest in.
Awesome. Oh, that's so helpful. And it's true because, you've done all the hard work already, haven't you? All of the copies in
Yeah.
there. You thought about what all of the benefits are, the transformation, what it's included, the FAQs.
Hmm.
Why then go and open up a new Word document and start from scratch when you've got all that
Yeah.
there to there and having that consistency too, that then the message is everywhere, that they're seeing the same phrases again and again, whether it's
Hmm.
on Instagram, whether it's in their emails, whether it's on other socials, or on the sales page itself, that they can go back and read it again and again, because it takes so many
Yeah.
times of hearing the same thing before it clicks anyway, doesn't it? That we might as well
Yeah.
use that information on the sales page and putting it in and sharing it. Thank you so much. This has been so helpful. It's made me want to go back and listen now and go and look at my own sales pages.
Mm.
I'm sure there's plenty of stuff there that's going to help me, and I'm sure it will help all of our listeners as well. Before we wrap up, and I ask you the one final question that I like to ask all of my guests on the show, have you got any one like final piece of advice or one final nugget before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would say, kind of tying back to what we started with, no matter like how daunting it is, you can do this. Like you have everything within you as the creator of your service or your product or course creator. You have all of the knowledge you need to write this sales page or even write your launch emails or do a launch. Like you have everything within you. I think so often people just get caught up in like, I have to do it right, or get caught up in the comparison game. But you know your program inside and out, you know your service inside and out. You have the capability of doing this. And, even as a copywriter, I'd like to advise people to write their own sales pages because copy is such a crucial part of business. And I just think taking that dive and writing your copy just helps you like you and your business are like, you're like partners. It helps you learn your partner a little bit even better, even more. And but it's scary, but like anything good in life, what's scary doesn't mean you can't do it. And you've got everything you need. And I'm right here with you. It's like I said, it's daunting, but it's so worth it coming out on the other side and seeing, wow, okay, this is my my work on a page, and it's the rewards that come from it are so beautiful, and will like you'll just be. I really think it's like a confidence boost too. It will help you be so much more grounded in your business as well. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That is such a
Hmm.
wonderful dose of encouragement for people because it can be so, so daunting. And
Yes.
like you say, we know it best ourselves. Nobody else is going to know it
Mhm.
as well as we do. And just giving ourselves permission to write from the heart like that, I think is just going to make it so
Yeah.
much easier to go ahead and actually just get started on creating it and then being proud of what you've done afterwards of, hey, I created this.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a fab dose of encouragement. So, one of the
Mm.
questions that I always love to ask all of my guests on the show is what does being an unapologetic mompreneur mean to you? And how do you show up every day unapologetically, both as a boss of your business and as a mum?
Yeah. So like I've said, I'm just vulnerable. I'm not someone who likes to like yeah, I'd love for my life to be perfect, but it's not. And there's no sense in trying to make it's too much more like it's so much more work to make it seem more perfect than it actually is. And so I just have one daughter, and I constantly think about when my daughter looks back on this time of life, what is she like? What will she think of me? What will she think of her mom? Watching her mom pursue her career and all this, like pursue her personal life endeavors, and also be my mom, and that's constantly what's in the back of my mind. And I don't want her to see someone who is not authentically themselves. So I just show up as me. It's not like the coolest advice. It's not the prettiest advice, but I just show up as me. And I'm really learning because with a 2-year old, we do a lot of big feelings work, a lot of big feelings work, and working through how can we, um, acknowledge our feelings, but also not let them take hold of us. And even, I'm 31, and what I'm telling my daughter is still like, oh, I need to work on that. So owning up to even just my 2 year old saying, like, it's your mom, like, I'm working through these things and I'm doing my best, but I'm standing beside you and I'm walking through it with you, and I'm gonna help you, and I'm gonna work on it myself. And because I want to get to a point where it's kind of like she's holding me accountable as well. She's seeing that I am not expecting her to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. Um, and often, like I've alluded, I feel like I have no idea how I'm steering the ship, but we're still sailing. We're right afloat. We're not sinking yet. So I'm just showing up and learning how to be present is really helping me just be, yeah, unapologetically a mom, unapologetically this business owner, and just unapologetically marrying those two together, because that is my life. And I do hope and I pray that as my daughter gets older, she sees that and sees the permission and the freedom to just to be okay with, I don't know how, but we're doing it and we'll figure it out as we go, and leaning on others for that support as well. I was just with family this past weekend, and I was really reminded, it takes that saying, it takes a village. I was really reminded of that, and not being afraid to show up, not knowing an answer, but also not being afraid to show up and saying, I really need your support today. Can you help me with, my village, so to say. Yeah, yeah, it was
I absolutely love that. That is just
a,
wonderful. That is probably one of my favorite ones that I've had so far. I think that is just so lovely. And yeah, it's just about being raw and vulnerable and real. And it is, like you said, it's exhausting trying to be perfect. And it's not going to
Mhm.
happen. There's no such thing as perfect. And I love that you shared, I'm probably going to ruin it now, but that you're still, you're not sure where we're steering the ship and how we're doing it, but we're not sinking yet. And I love that. It's
Yeah,
just so
yeah,
that's just brilliant. That just sums it up so well. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Macaira. This has been such a fun episode to chat with you about. There's so many other things that I could dive into with you on sales pages that we're probably going to have you back again. That would be amazing. I would
sure,
love
yeah.
that. And if people want to connect with you, go find out more about your offerings, your services, how you can help them create their own amazing sales pages. Where can they reach out and
Mhm.
find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me is Instagram and Threads. On both services, my handle is at Mac Smith Copy. My website is macsmithcopy.com. And I mostly show up these days. I'm mostly on Threads, but you'll see me on both Insta and Threads. And but probably the best way to get in touch with me is my website, reaching out to me through my website. But thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure, and I'm so appreciative for you and your podcast, what you do, and just I'm so thankful for the chance to be on here and talk about something I love and love to nerd out over. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
you're absolutely welcome. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's been wonderful. We will absolutely make sure that all of the links and everything are in the show notes as well.
Thank
So if you are curious, you want some help and tips, getting your web pages sorted out, your sales page copy nailed, go and check out and connect with Macaira. Go and say hello to her. Go and stalk her on Instagram.
you.
Make sure you hit that follow. And yeah,
Yeah,
just go and check it out. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope that
thank
this has
you.
been super helpful. And if you've got any questions, if you want to let us know what your favorite takeaway was, come and send us messages over on Instagram. Again, links in the show notes. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening, for watching on YouTube if you're tuning in there as well. And look forward to chatting with you in the next episode. Bye for now. Thank you so much for joining me for another installment of the Unapologetic Mompreneur podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a rating and a review so that other mompreneurs can find this podcast too. Here's to unapologetically becoming the mum, wife, biz owner, and woman you know you are meant and deserve to be. I can't wait to chat with you in the next episode. Bye for now.